Like, let's unpack this. Today, we're diving into an area that is, well, both fascinating in its complexity and incredibly relevant to pretty much every corner of global diplomacy and international security.
Mhm.
We're going to shine a light on how one specific nation, India, has been remarkably active, really influential on the world stage, particularly through its extensive and comprehensive efforts to counter terrorism throughout 2023.
Yeah,
This isn't just about headlines, it's about the intricate web of strategies a major global player employs to tackle one of the most persistent threats of our time.
and what's genuinely fascinating here, I think, is just how multifaceted these efforts are and strategically interwoven.
Right.
They truly span the entire spectrum. You've got everything from like high-level global declarations, which serve to articulate international consensus and political will,
Yeah.
right down to very specific, highly technical workshops. Workshops designed to build practical, on-the-ground capabilities among nations. Our sources, they lay out a crystal clear, remarkably detailed picture of India's consistent and extensive engagement across a whole array of platforms throughout 2023.
A wide array.
Yeah, encompassing bilateral, one-on-one partnerships, sprawling multilateral forums involving many nations, and very targeted regional initiatives designed to address specific geographic threats.
So our mission today, then, is to distill these diverse initiatives, to really understand their true significance, maybe the specific challenges they aim to address.
Exactly.
We want to see how they collectively paint a comprehensive picture of a nation that is genuinely at the forefront, right, of a critical global challenge. You, our listener, will walk away from this deep dive with, hopefully, a genuine shortcut to being well-informed on this vital subject.
Mhm.
It's not just about listing what happened, but about dissecting why each step, each meeting, each declaration truly matters in the larger, often painstaking global effort to combat terrorism.
Yeah, the why is key.
Let's kick things off by establishing India's overarching role. Our source explicitly states, quite powerfully actually, that India has always been at the forefront of global efforts to counter terrorism. That's a bold declaration, isn't it?
It is. It's a strong statement.
But what did that actually look like concretely, on the ground and in the diplomatic halls throughout 2023?
Right.
We saw counterterrorism maintain a remarkably high prominence. It featured centrally in both bilateral and multilateral meetings at virtually all levels across the entire year. It was never just like a side note.
No, definitely not. It consistently held a central, pivotal theme. And this prominence was perhaps nowhere more pronounced or strategically leveraged than during India's G20 presidency in 2023.
Ah, the G20.
Big one. Huge. This
Yeah.
wasn't merely a rotational leadership position. Leading the G20 provides an unparalleled sort of singular platform to shape global agendas
Yeah.
and steer international priorities.
Right, sets the tone.
Exactly. And during this period, counterterrorism was notably accorded high priority. That signals its elevation from, just a purely security concern to a core element of global economic stability.
Interesting link, security and economy.
Very much so. We saw this manifest very clearly back in March 2023 during the G20 Foreign Ministers meeting. Significantly, a dedicated section specifically on counterterrorism was meticulously included in its outcome document.
Okay, an outcome document. Why is that so important in diplomatic terms? Is it just meeting minutes?
Oh, no, much more than that. It's not simply a collection of informal notes or like a casual summary. It's a formal, unanimously agreed upon statement.
Unanimously, wow.
Yes, a statement of consensus and collective commitment. It functions as a concrete roadmap for future action, agreed upon by the world's most influential economies. It signifies a shared strategic direction. It's got weight.
Got it. A roadmap.
But the absolute pinnacle of this high-level engagement was undoubtedly the New Delhi Leaders' Declaration, adopted by the heads of state themselves.
The very top level.
The very top. This landmark document emphasized a strong, unified stance against terrorism, explicitly recognizing it as one of the most serious threats to international peace and security.
That phrase, one of the most serious threats. Powerful.
Extremely powerful. It wasn't just diplomatic platitude. It was a potent assertion from the highest level of global leadership, acknowledging the pervasive and, frankly, destabilizing nature of the threat.
Okay, so maybe step back a bit. You might be wondering, and I think it's a valid question, why is it so significant for a forum like the G20, which, let's be honest, is usually focused on global economic issues, right? Trade, finance.
Yeah, traditionally that's the core focus.
So why feature counterterrorism so prominently, even getting it into the highest level leaders' declaration?
That's a crucial question, and the analysis here is absolutely key. It reflects a modern strategic imperative, really.
Okay.
This isn't just a general statement about, everything's connected. It marks a pivotal shift in how major economies perceive and address global security.
A shift.
It signals that for today's incredibly interconnected global economy, counterterrorism isn't just a security burden or, a humanitarian issue off to the side. It's become a core, indispensable component of economic resilience.
Economic resilience. Okay, explain that link more.
Well, think about it. Terrorism impacts everything. It affects investment ratings in targeted regions, the stability of global supply chains, the flow of tourism, trade.
Right, it creates uncertainty.
Massive uncertainty.
Yeah.
It can fragment societies, divert huge national resources away from development towards security.
Which hits the economy hard.
Directly.
Mm.
It creates widespread instability that fundamentally undermines economic growth. So, for the world's leading economies to prioritize counterterrorism in their highest level declaration demonstrates a profound shared understanding
I understand that.
that sustainable economic stability and prosperity simply cannot exist without robust security. It's an unambiguous recognition that peace and economic well-being are inextricably linked to effectively combating this threat. You can't separate them anymore.
That makes a tremendous amount of sense. It really does sound like a significant evolution in strategic thinking, moving it beyond just, the security ministries.
Precisely.
So, following up on that then, how does a high-level declaration like the New Delhi Leaders Declaration actually translate into tangible, actionable steps on the ground? Is it more than just words on paper?
Good question. Is there a real mechanism for these commitments to filter down?
Yeah.
It's definitely more than just words, although the translation isn't always, let's say, immediate or direct.
Okay.
While a declaration itself isn't an enforcement mechanism in the traditional sense, like a treaty might be, it's a profoundly powerful statement of collective political will.
Political will.
Yes, and it serves as a critical strategic framework for future, more concrete cooperation. Firstly, it sets an undeniable global tone.
Oh.
By having leaders of the world's major economies unite in such a strong statement, it signals to all nations, and crucially perhaps, to non-state actors and terrorist groups themselves, that the international community is united, resolute, and strategically aligned against terrorism.
So a deterrent effect.
It can have a significant deterrent effect, yeah. It complicates their planning, their operations.
Mm.
Secondly, and maybe more importantly, for tangible action.
Mm.
It provides a powerful mandate that empowers diplomats, policymakers, national agencies to pursue more concrete bilateral and multilateral initiatives with renewed vigor.
Because the top leadership said so.
Exactly. When leaders explicitly agree on the severity of a threat and the pressing need to counter it, it fundamentally prioritizes resource allocation within national budgets.
Ah, the money follows the priority.
Right. And it directs national policies and international engagements. It fosters a shared narrative, a common language, making it significantly easier to coordinate intelligence efforts, to share best practices, develop joint strategies, even streamline legal frameworks for prosecution.
So it greases the wheels for cooperation lower down.
Perfectly put.
Yeah.
In essence, it elevates counterterrorism from being a potentially siloed national security concern to a central integrated pillar of international diplomacy. It encourages deeper, more sustained engagement across multiple sectors, diverse geographies. It's like the strategic compass that guides all of the subsequent operational efforts.
That's a really clear explanation of how those high-level statements create those ripple effects. Okay, so let's zoom in now and ask, what does all this mean on the ground beyond those grand declarations we just discussed?
Right, the practical stuff.
Yeah, how does this commitment manifest in direct one-on-one engagement with other nations? This is where we introduce a key practical mechanism, the Joint Working Group on Counterterrorism, or JWGCT. This sounds like where the rubber truly meets the road.
Exactly. The JWGCT mechanism truly represents the operational arm, the diplomatic workbench, if you will, for these high-level political commitments.
The workbench, I like that.
These are dedicated bilateral consultations where countries can really delve into the highly specific, granular details of counterterrorism cooperation.
So not just pleasantries.
Oh, definitely not just talk shops. They are platforms for sharing classified intelligence, discussing specific threats, planning joint initiatives. Throughout 2023, India was remarkably active on this front.
Holding these JWGCT meetings with Quite a few countries.
Yes, a diverse and strategically chosen set of nations. Let's list them out just to give you a clear sense of the consistent year-round nature and the geographical breadth of these engagements.
Okay, let's hear them.
India met with Canada on February 3rd,
Okay.
followed by Egypt on February 16th,
Right.
Russia on May 3rd, Germany on May 17th.
Busy spring.
Very busy. Then Maldives from July 24th to 25th, and Italy on October 6th.
To spread throughout the year.
Absolutely. As you can see, these meetings were deliberately spread out across the calendar, indicating a continuous, high-priority dialogue rather than just, episodic engagement.
Consistent effort. Now, you might be curious. I certainly am. What exactly was discussed in these JWGCT meetings? What's on the agenda?
Well, our source explicitly states that the discussions covered, and I quote, issues of shared interests in combating terrorism, capacity building efforts, exchanges of good practices, and information sharing.
Okay, let's break that down. Shared interests. That sounds broad. What does it mean in practice?
It is broad, but in practice, it might entail anything from specific transnational threats that affect both nations, like particular terrorist groups operating in a shared region.
Or maybe online threats.
Exactly. Or the growing challenge of crypto-based terror financing. For instance, both India and a partner nation like Canada might be grappling with the use of emerging technologies by extremist groups for propaganda and recruitment,
Right.
or maybe the complex issue of managing the return of foreign terrorist fighters from conflict zones. These meetings become the direct problem-solving forums for these real-time shared headaches.
Makes sense. What about capacity building? That sounds important, but a bit vague.
It's incredibly critical and very practical. This isn't just abstract information exchange. It's about actively strengthening the capabilities of each other's counterterrorism apparatus.
How? Like training?
Yes, training is a big part. It could involve highly specialized training in advanced intelligence analysis techniques, enhancing forensic capabilities for investigating complex terror attacks,
Okay.
improving and standardizing border security measures to prevent illicit crossings, developing cutting-edge expertise in cybersecurity to effectively counter online radicalization.
Cyber is huge now.
Huge. Or even collaborating on harmonizing legal frameworks for prosecuting complex terror cases across jurisdictions.
Yeah.
Imagine, for example, a workshop where Indian bomb disposal experts share their unique experience
Right. Real world experience.
in identifying and neutralizing improvised explosive devices, or Canadian experts provide insights into sophisticated methods for preventing online radicalization in diverse communities. It's about practical, hands-on learning and skill transfer.
Got it. And exchanges of good practices. Is that different from capacity building?
Similar, but distinct. It means learning directly from what has proven effective in other countries. So if one nation has successfully developed a robust model for, say, community-led de-radicalization programs, or a highly effective system for tracking suspicious financial transactions across complex international networks, these are considered invaluable good practices that can potentially be adapted and implemented elsewhere. It's sharing what works.
Learning from success stories.
Exactly. And of course, information sharing. This is the absolute bedrock of all effective counterterrorism efforts.
It's the foundation.
Absolutely. This involves sharing time-sensitive intelligence on imminent threats, known individuals on watch lists, evolving terrorist methodologies, emerging trends in global terror networks. This kind of direct, secure, rapid communication between national agencies is paramount.
To stop things before they happen.
Precisely. To anticipate, disrupt, and ultimately prevent terror plots before they materialize. It's about piecing together fragments of information from disparate sources to form a complete picture. Vital stuff.
That detailed breakdown really helps visualize the practical aspects. It makes it much more concrete. And it's fascinating to consider why these specific countries were chosen for these bilateral engagements.
Right.
You mentioned Maldives as a regional partner. That makes sense. But what unique perspectives or capabilities might some of the others, like Russia, Germany, or Canada, bring to the table in these very focused discussions?
That's an excellent question, and it really highlights the sophisticated strategic thinking behind India's choice of partners here. It's not random.
Seems calculated.
Very much so. Each country brings a distinct value proposition and addresses a particular facet of the global counterterrorism challenge. For instance, Maldives, as you noted, key regional partner in the Indian Ocean, vital for maritime security, addressing potential radicalization issues specific to an island nation context.
Makes sense. Their perspective on regional threats.
Invaluable. especially those related to illicit maritime activities, foreign fighter movements via sea routes, maybe even environmental factors exploited by extremists.
Okay, what about Russia?
Russia possesses extensive, long-standing experience in counterterrorism operations, particularly dealing with radical extremist groups in specific theaters. They have significant intelligence and military capabilities.
So discussions might focus on.
Broader geopolitical threats, perhaps? Strategic intelligence sharing concerning large-scale networks, insights into combating highly organized terror cells, that sort of thing.
And Germany and Canada, they seem different again.
They are. As major global players, members of the G7, they bring robust, democratic legal frameworks, advanced technological capabilities, and often a strong emphasis on human rights compliant counterterrorism measures.
So expertise in things like cyber.
Yes, emerging areas like cyber terrorism, protecting critical infrastructure from digital attacks, or advanced methods for preventing radicalization through sophisticated community engagement and social media counter-narratives. They have a lot of experience there.
And Italy.
Italy, also a significant European and G7 member, has considerable experience combating sophisticated organized crime networks.
Oh, the crime-terror nexus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which frequently have direct overlaps with terrorist financing and logistics. Their insights could be crucial for disrupting cross-border criminal enterprises that perhaps unwittingly or sometimes wittingly support terror groups.
And finally, Egypt.
Egypt, a prominent voice, strategically important nation in the Middle East and North Africa, critical for understanding complex regional dynamics, countering ideological extremism emanating from conflict zones, addressing threats related to groups operating in that, frankly, volatile area?
So it really is a tailored approach.
Absolutely. These aren't random pairings driven by convenience. They are carefully calculated partnerships designed to address specific aspects of the global counterterrorism challenge, drawing on the unique strengths, experiences, and geographical concerns of each cooperating nation. It's a very tailored approach to a universal threat.
That makes the bilateral strategy much clearer, showing how specific expertise is leveraged. Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting, I think. Beyond those crucial one-on-one dialogues we just explored, India is also deeply embedded in much larger multilateral frameworks. It's not just about bilateral diplomacy. It's about broadening the net, right? Including many nations working in concert.
Absolutely essential.
Because terrorism, as we know, respects no borders.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
And India's extensive engagement in these multilateral forums powerfully demonstrates its unwavering commitment to collective security. It shows a fundamental understanding that terrorism is a borderless, constantly evolving threat requiring a broad, coordinated, globally synchronized response.
So let's dig into some of those key platforms. Where was India active in 2023 on the multilateral stage?
Okay, first we have the Global Counterterrorism Forum, or GCTF. India's active participation in the 21st GCTF Coordinating Committee meeting on May 4th, 2023 in Cairo was noteworthy.
The GCTF, what's its main role? And why is the coordinating committee important?
So the GCTF is an informal, apolitical, multilateral platform. It brings together a diverse range of countries, all with varying experiences, to share expertise, develop practical good practices, and formulate non-binding but influential frameworks on how to effectively counter terrorism.
Non-binding but influential.
Yes, they set standards and norms. Its coordinating committee is vital because it's the steering body. It sets the forum's strategic agenda, oversees its various working groups which delve into specific topics like rule of law or foreign terrorist fighters, and ensures the GCTF's initiatives stay aligned with current global priorities.
So India being there means?
It means contributing to and actively shaping the global narrative, sharing lessons learned from its own experiences, and helping to establish international best practices. It's about being part of the conversation that sets the direction.
Got it. What else?
Then there's the South Asian Network on Preventing and Countering Violent Extremism, or SNPVE. India was an active participant in the second meeting of its advisory board on January 18th, held virtually.
Okay, SAN-NPVE. The name highlights preventing and countering violent extremism. You mentioned this is distinct from just terrorism. Can you explain that nuance again?
Yes, it's an important distinction. While terrorism refers to the violent act itself, or the use of violence to achieve political aims,
Right.
violent extremism refers to the underlying ideology or belief system that can, but doesn't always, lead to such violence.
The ideology behind the violence.
Exactly. So PVE efforts often aim to go upstream. They try to address the complex root causes and drivers of radicalization, things like unresolved grievances, pervasive propaganda, socioeconomic marginalization, political exclusion before these factors escalate into actual violence.
So stopping it before it starts.
That's the goal. It's about building resilience within communities, providing credible alternative narratives to extremist ideologies, and supporting individuals who might be vulnerable to radicalization. It's a longer-term, more preventative approach.
Makes sense. What other multilateral forums?
India also played a consistent and crucial role in the Financial Action Task Force, or FATF. They participated actively in 2 plenary meetings in Paris, one in February, another in June.
FATF, we hear about this one a lot, usually regarding gray lists and blacklists. Why is it so crucial specifically for counterterrorism?
Simply put, it's the global watchdog and standard setter against money laundering and, critically, terrorist financing.
Following the money.
Exactly.
Click.
Its primary role is to establish and promote international standards that countries must implement to prevent these illicit financial flows. These flows are the lifeblood of terrorist organizations.
Without money, they can't operate.
Precisely. By actively participating, India helps ensure that the financial lifelines of terrorist groups are systematically cut off. This makes it exponentially harder for them to fund operations, acquire weapons, pay recruits, or spread propaganda. It directly links financial security to national security and global stability. It recognizes that dirty money fuels global terror.
That explanation of FATF's role really clarifies how financial mechanisms are so integral to counterterrorism efforts.
Okay, and a particularly prominent, maybe relatively new example of multilateral engagement is the Quad Working Group on Counterterrorism.
Yes, the Quad.
This sounds like a really significant development, especially since our sources mention its formation on March 3rd, right there in New Delhi, during the Quad Foreign Ministers meeting.
Yeah.
What makes this new group so impactful?
It absolutely is a significant and strategic development. It marks an important evolution for the Quad grouping. That's Australia, India, Japan, and the U.S.
Right.
The formation of the Quad Working Group on Counterterrorism was formally announced by the Quad foreign ministers in a joint statement. This isn't just another discussion topic. It's the establishment of a new, dedicated, structured mechanism for enhanced cooperation among these 4 on this critical issue.
So moving beyond its traditional focus? Exactly. Traditionally, the Quad has often been perceived as primarily focusing on maritime security, promoting a free and open Indo-Pacific. The explicit inclusion of counterterrorism within its formal remit significantly expands the Quad's strategic scope.
What does that signal?
It demonstrates a shared understanding among these 4 influential nations that security in the 21st century encompasses a much broader spectrum of threats beyond traditional state-on-state military concerns. It signifies a collective recognition that non-state actors and their activities pose a direct challenge to regional and global stability.
And requires a coordinated response from this group.
A concerted, coordinated response. Yes. Yeah. And this new group wasted absolutely no time. Following its formation, a practical consequence management tabletop exercise was held in June up in Alaska.
A tabletop exercise. What does that actually involve in this context? Is it like a war game?
Sort of, but focused on crisis response rather than traditional warfare. It's a sophisticated, simulated crisis scenario. It doesn't involve real-world troop deployment or active operations.
What happened?
Instead, participants, typically senior policymakers, military leaders, intelligence officials from the 4 nations, gather around a table, often with maps, simulated intelligence reports, predefined scenarios.
Okay.
And they work through a hypothetical complex terrorist incident in real time. They discuss and decide how they would communicate, coordinate their responses, share sensitive intelligence, manage public messaging during a crisis, allocate scarce resources, address legal and logistical challenges.
Testing the system under pressure, basically.
Precisely. It's an invaluable tool for rigorously testing preparedness, identifying potential gaps in existing response plans, and crucially, building deep interagency and international collaboration in a low-risk, controlled environment.
So everyone knows what to do if the real thing happens.
That's the goal. To ensure that if a real crisis hits, these nations can respond seamlessly, effectively, and with minimal friction. It demonstrates a practical, rather than just rhetorical, commitment to collective action against complex threats.
Okay, so we've covered those overarching global declarations, the broad multilateral forums like GCTF and FATF, and specific groups like the Quad. But counterterrorism also inherently requires strong regional cooperation, doesn't it?
Absolutely vital.
Because threats often transcend national borders within a specific geographic area, creating very localized challenges. What did India's efforts look like in its immediate neighborhood and beyond, focusing specifically on building regional solidarities and addressing these targeted threats?
That's a crucial dimension, you're right. Many contemporary terrorist groups operate across national boundaries, leveraging porous borders, regional instability, making focused regional collaboration absolutely indispensable.
So, where was India active regionally?
Let's delve into some of these specific regional initiatives. First, we have BIMSTEC, the Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation.
BIMSTEC. Okay.
India played a genuinely pivotal role here. They hosted the 10th meeting of the BIMSTEC Joint Working Group on Counterterrorism and Transnational Crime, the JWGCTTC, back in January 2023 in New Delhi.
And participation was good.
Excellent. The fact that all BIMSTEC member states participated underscores the broad regional buy-in for these critical discussions. Complementing this, India also hosted the 9th meeting of the BIMSTEC subgroup on legal and law enforcement issues in June, also in New Delhi.
Interesting that they combine counterterrorism with transnational crime and legal law enforcement. Why is that?
That combination is quite significant. It reflects a crucial and, frankly, evolving understanding that these challenges are often deeply, almost inextricably intertwined.
How so?
Well, for instance, organized criminal networks involved in things like illicit drug trafficking, human trafficking, arms smuggling, or cybercrime frequently provide direct or indirect financing, logistical support, or even recruitment pathways to terrorist groups.
They feed off each other.
Exactly. They often share commonalities in exploiting illicit financial flows, navigating complex border security challenges, leveraging corruption. So addressing them in a combined, holistic forum like BIMSTEC allows for a more integrated and effective approach.
Strengthening capabilities across the board.
Yes, strengthening collective capabilities in areas like intelligence sharing on cross-border criminal activities, improving mutual legal assistance for investigations and prosecutions, enhancing the ability to collectively prosecute those involved in both terrorism and other serious organized crimes. It's a recognition you can't effectively fight one without addressing the other.
Makes perfect sense. Where else regionally?
Next, we look at CIKI, the Conference on Interaction and Confidence Building Measures in Asia. India is a founding member and, critically, served as the coordinator in CIKI for the priority area of combating terrorism.
Coordinator, so taking a lead role.
A definite lead role under the broader new challenges and threats dimension. This meant India was actively shaping the agenda and driving concrete initiatives for regional counterterrorism efforts across a vast geographic area.
What kind of initiatives?
As a direct part of this coordination, India hosted 2 highly specific and incredibly relevant virtual workshops. One was titled Counter-Radicalization, held in early February 2023.
Counter-radicalization again. Very current.
Extremely current. The other focused sharply on the misuse of internet, held in late May.
Also critical. What would these workshops cover?
Well, radicalization, as we touched on, is that complex process where individuals adopt extreme ideologies, often embracing violence. Countering it involves a sophisticated range of strategies, discrediting extremist narratives, providing alternative pathways, promoting social inclusion, fostering community resilience, all very complex.
And the misuse of the internet.
That's another huge and rapidly evolving threat. The digital space is now a primary tool for terrorist groups. Low cost, high reach.
For propaganda,
recruitment, illicit financing, planning and coordinating attacks, even radicalizing individuals remotely. These workshops likely delved into practical strategies, how to monitor online extremist content, develop persuasive counter-narratives, share best practices in digital forensics, foster collaboration with tech companies to limit the spread of harmful material, all while trying to balance freedom of expression. Tricky stuff.
Very tricky. Okay, any other major regional involvements?
Yes. India's active and influential role also extended to the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, or SEO.
The SEO, right. Primarily Central Asian focus, plus China, Russia, India, Pakistan.
That's right. And under India's chairship of the SEO Council of Heads of State for 2022-2023, a particularly significant outcome was the unanimous adoption of the statement of the SEO Council of Heads of State on countering radicalization leading to terrorism, separatism, and extremism.
That title is interesting. Separatism and extremism included alongside terrorism.
Very observant. That specific inclusion reflects a broader, more nuanced, and you could say politically astute understanding of the threats facing the SEO region.
How so?
It explicitly acknowledges that radical ideologies often fuel separatist movements, which can then resort to extremist tactics and full-blown terrorism to achieve their aims. By addressing all three interconnected phenomena, radicalization, separatism, and extremism within its counterterrorism framework, the SKO aims for a more comprehensive, integrated approach to ensuring regional stability across its vast Eurasian footprint.
A broader definition of the threat. What about BRICS?
India further solidified its international engagement by participating in the 8th meeting of the BRICS Counterterrorism Working Group, the CTWG, and get this, no less than 5 distinct subgroup meetings.
5 subgroups. Wow, that sounds very detailed.
It was held in June in Pretoria, South Africa, and yes, the fact that there were 5 subgroup meetings beyond the main working group meeting is highly indicative of a deeper, more granular, technically detailed level of cooperation within BRICS.
What might those subgroups focus on?
They likely delved into very specific specialized aspects. For example, combating the financing of terrorism through specific mechanisms, dealing with the terrifying prospect of chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, CBRN threats.
CBRN, right.
Countering the growing challenge of cyber terrorism, enhancing border management and security protocols, or even sharing intelligence and strategies related to specific regional terrorist organizations that pose a common threat to BRICS members.
Tailored discussions for specific problems.
Exactly. This structured approach with specialized subgroups allows for much more detailed discussion, sharing of technical expertise, and coordinated action on distinct, often highly complex facets of the global counterterrorism challenge among these major emerging economies. Their diverse experiences add unique value.
Okay, one more key region. Southeast Asia and ASEAN. What was happening there?
India showed significant and growing engagement with ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. India participated in the 19th Asian Regional Forum, or ARF, Intersessional Meeting on Counterterrorism and Transnational Crime, that's the ARF-ESM on CTTC in May, held virtually.
Okay.
Furthermore, India was a key participant in the 10th Asian Senior Officials Meeting on Transnational Crime, or SONTC plus India consultation, held in June in Yogyakarta, Indonesia. These engagements demonstrate India's recognition of the critical importance of Southeast Asia as a strategic theater for counterterrorism.
And was there a specific outcome from that SOMTC plus India meeting?
Yes. Crucially, this latter consultation formally endorsed the ASEAN-India Work Plan on cooperation to combat transnational crime between 2023 and 2027.
A multi-year work plan. That sounds significant. Why is that better than just meeting annually?
It's extremely significant. A multi-year work plan signifies a long-term, highly structured, strategically committed partnership, rather than just a series of one-off ad hoc meetings.
What are the advantages?
They're numerous and profound. It provides a clear, actionable roadmap for sustained cooperation across various areas. It allows for the establishment of measurable goals and targets to evaluate progress. It facilitates consistent resource allocation and planning from both sides, and perhaps most importantly,
Yes.
it builds enduring trust, deep institutional capabilities, and predictable mechanisms for collaboration over an extended period. It fundamentally shifts the engagement from merely reactive responses to immediate threats towards a proactive strategic partnership aimed at building long-term resilience against the evolving spectrum of transnational threats in a vital region like Southeast Asia.
Wow. Okay, we've truly unpacked a lot today. From the highest echelons of global diplomacy, like India's pivotal role in the G20, to highly targeted regional workshops focusing on specific modern threats like online radicalization and the misuse of the internet,
Yeah, very specific.
and the very specific consistent bilateral mechanisms like the JWGCT, it is abundantly clear that India's counterterrorism efforts in 2023 were truly extensive, deeply multi-layered, and, well, remarkably strategic.
They really were comprehensive.
You've seen how these efforts aren't just about reacting to immediate threats as they emerge, but fundamentally about proactively building long-term capacity, fostering the sharing of crucial best practices, and actively shaping international norms and standards in this ever-evolving, complex global fight against terrorism.
And if we truly connect this to the bigger picture, what we've meticulously discussed today highlights a critical, maybe often understated understanding that counterterrorism is just no longer a purely national issue, confined within a country's border.
Right, it's globalized.
It really has evolved into an intricately woven tapestry of indispensable international cooperation. It demands constant adaptation from meticulously addressing the complex, often hidden financial flows that fuel terrorist organizations to combating the insidious and rapid spread of radicalization online across social platforms.
The sheer breadth is staggering.
It is. The sheer breadth of India's engagement encompassing financial, ideological, legal, technological, operational aspects across such diverse bilateral, regional, multilateral platforms, it just underscores how comprehensive and interconnected this fight has truly become. It's a testament to the idea that no single nation, no matter how powerful, can tackle this challenge alone.
A collective effort is the only way.
It seems to be. And this exhaustive deep dive naturally raises an important question, I think, for you, our listener, to ponder.
Okay.
Given the relentlessly ever-evolving nature of global threats, think about the potential misuse of artificial intelligence by non-state actors, or new forms of biological threats, maybe even the impacts of climate-induced displacement on radicalization.
Future challenges, yeah.
Yeah. How do these diverse and extensive international collaborations truly contribute to building a safer, more resilient world for all? And perhaps more critically, what are the enduring, often deeply embedded challenges and inherent limitations that still lie ahead despite such extensive and coordinated efforts by nations like India and their global partners?
Where are the gaps?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where are the gaps that still need bridging? What hurdles remain?
We truly hope this deep dive has given you a clearer, more nuanced, and more deeply informed understanding of this vital global issue, moving beyond just the headlines to the strategic substance behind them.
Hopefully a deeper perspective.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep connecting the dots on how these complex international efforts ultimately shape our shared future and security.